Okay, this is part 2.5, Arrow. She dresses in silence, picks up her rifle, and closes the door to the apartment. Her footsteps echo in the stairwell despite her efforts at stealth. It's a quirk of the building's design, she supposes, and considers this, whether an inability to muffle sound, would be described as a positive or negative acoustic quality. She decides it all depends on what she wanted of a staircase. There are advantages to being able to hear who's in the hall. The sun has been out for half an hour, but the streets are mostly deserted. She encounters a few people as she moves down the hill and into the old town, but she doesn't make eye contact with them. She passes the remnants of a shop that once sold the best ice cream, and she remembers being a small girl with her grandmother on the street. She asked her grandmother to stop in a pleading voice of a child used to getting her own way, even though she's just had some ice cream not an hour earlier. When her grandmother said no, Arrow let go of her hand and refused to continue. Her grandmother knelt down, took Arrow's face in her hands, and kissed her on the forehead. "There is more to life than ice cream," she said. Arrow wonders, as this memory fades, what she would give for a scoop of that ice cream today. All the money she has? Certainly. Her rifle? Maybe. The one remaining photograph of her grandmother? She shakes her head and increases her pace, denying her mind a chance to answer. This is her favorite time of day. It's nearly always quiet. Even the war stops for a rest, if only a short one. The absence of shelling is almost like music. So in this time, whenever we're comparing music, we are not thinking about war at all. It's almost as a peaceful representation. She imagines that if she closed her eyes, she could convince herself that she was walking through the streets of Sarajevo as it used to be. Almost. She knows that the city of her memory, she wasn't hungry, she wasn't bruised, and her shoulder didn't bear the weight of the gun. In the city of her memory, there were always people out at this time of the morning, preparing for the day to come. They wouldn't be shut inside like invalids, exhausted from another night of wondering if a shell was about to land on their house. She has arrived at her destination. She stands where she stood the day before, her back against the same wall, and takes in the street. Paving stones that withstood the feet of generations have been split open. There's no glass left in the windows. Some of them are black-eyed, covered in plastic, while others are empty, gaps like absent teeth in an old man's mouth. The street has been assaulted. Arrow crosses and sits in the spot where the motor landed, the spot where, later today, the cellist will sit. She knows that 22 people died here and a multitude were injured, that will not walk or see or touch again, because they tried to buy bread. A small decision. Nothing to think about. You're hungry and you come to this place where maybe there will be but some bread to buy. Of all the places you go, you come here. Of all the days you come, a particular one chooses you at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is what the prologue has referenced. In the prologue, 3 times it is repeated that the sky is split open, and that is the bomb that has come down. And the cellist has witnessed the 22 of his neighbors and friends who were killed. And that is why he's coming here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon again for 22 days, which is a symbol, to represent this fact, right? That they tried to buy bread, that they tried to live. It's just something you do because life is a series of tiny, unavoidable decisions. And some men on the hill send a bomb through the air to kill you. For them, it was probably just one more bomb in a day of many. Not notable at all. She reaches down and picks up a small piece of glass. This is a symbol. Glass is disappearing from the city. It's either been blown up or removed to prevent it from becoming a lethal projectile that when it is inevitably blown up. One pane at a time. The windows through which people see the world are vanishing, right? So glass, windows, all these things usually represent the reflection or a mirror of the person or their soul, and all of these are disappearing. This is how she now believes life happens, one small thing at a time, a series of inconsequential junctions, any or none of which can lead to salvation or disaster. There are no grand moments where a person does or does not perform the act that defines their humanity. There are only moments that appear, briefly, to be this way. She thinks of this in the context of pulling the trigger and ending a life. Before she ever killed, she assumed that this would put her life at a clear crossroads. She would behave in a way that demarcated the sort of person she had become. She'd expected to feel altered somehow from the person she was or hoped to be, but that wasn't the case. It was the easiest thing in the world to pull the trigger, a non-event. Everything that came before, all the small things that somehow added up without her ever noticing, made the act of killing an afterthought. This is what makes her a weapon. A weapon does not decide whether or not to kill. A weapon is a manifestation of a decision that has already been made. So this is why, again, her name is Arrow. She is a weapon. She is not a girl. She is not a woman with feelings. She has already made the decision to kill, and that is what she is. And that's why she's chosen this name, to separate herself from this fact. The cellist confuses her. She doesn't know what he hopes to achieve with his playing. He can't believe he will stop the war. He can't believe he will see lives. Perhaps he's gone insane, but she doesn't think so. She's seen the faces of those who have cracked, seen them walk into the street without a care for the danger. She's seen them die or survive, and to them it doesn't appear to register as different. The cellist doesn't strike her as a man who has lost his will to live. He appears to care more about the quality of his life. She can't tell what he believes, and it bothers her that she can't say exactly what it is or whether she wants to believe it too. She knows it involves motion. Whatever the cellist is doing, he isn't sitting in a street waiting for something to happen. He is, it seems to her, increasing the speed of things. Whatever happens will come sooner because of him. So this is something interesting, that he's speeding it up. And in the whole novel as a whole, time is being played with. Arrow's story takes much longer to happen than everyone else's. Time is being kind of manipulated. She drops the piece of glass she has been turning over in her hand, listens to the small tick it makes as it returns to the ground. She wonders what will become of it. How long will it sit in the road? Will it be ground into dust that blows away and mixes in with the world, attached to someone's shoe, the tire of a car, the swing of a pigeon, the moisture in the atmosphere? Arrow wonders if the piece of glass will still be here tomorrow, and if, in a larger sense, she's very different from a piece of incidental detritus lying forgotten on the scene of a massacre. So again, this mirror is now representing her and other people in a larger sense, if they're not just being left at the end of a road. Arrow will keep this man alive. This wasn't ever really in doubt, but neither had she decided she would do it. Now, as she sits where he sits, she tells herself that she will not allow this man to die. He will finish what he's doing. It isn't important whether she understands what he's doing or why he's doing it. She doesn't understand it's important. And she does understand that it is important. And that is enough. Her attention shifts to the surrounding buildings. There are a lot of possible locations for someone to want to shoot at this spot, but they all fall into two lines of fire, east to west or west to east. The buildings on either side of the street, while providing many hiding spots, also shield the cellist from the hills in the north and the south. So they can't shoot from their own territory. They'll have to enter hers. And she presumes that they will wish to escape when they are finished. This narrows their possibilities. She decides that the most logical route of escape is to the south across the river, into Gorobaka. A shot from the southwest side of the street would therefore make the most sense. But Arrow knows they won't send an ordinary man. Most of their snipers are either hired, mercenaries, or untrained soldiers. A mercenary would be unlikely to accept such a dangerous job. They prefer to sit on the hills and earn their dirty money in relative safety. This is because a mercenary is paid. So these are people who are not involved in the conflict, who do it as a job. An irregular soldier, however, wouldn't possess the skills necessary to pull this off and still escape. So unless the commander was sending a man on a suicide mission, it won't be an ordinary soldier she's facing. No, the person they will send will be a properly trained army sniper, and he'll know what he's doing. Unlike Arrow, right? She doesn't actually have much more than the fact that she was on the university sniper team, well, shooting team. He won't be in the southwest because he'll know that as soon as the cellist falls, every defender in the area will try to cut off access to Gorobaka. It's simple geography. So the sniper will head into the opposite direction and either try to slip into the hills to the north or hole up in a safe house until he can move. Either way, he will not go southwest. Arrow looks to the east, and right away she sees where he will be. Not the exact building, if he's any good. If he thinks in terms of a bullet's path and his need to escape, there's only really one area from which he can make a shot.